Hey guys, Scott here. A little bit of a late night edition, 10 o'clock. It's late for me. Normally I'm in bed by like 9:30 and a half, 9:45. Um, I'm up here, I'm looking out the window. I got a lot of stars out this window. It's a clear night. And, just feeling a little bit moved to discuss a little bit about some of the things that are on my mind right now. So there was this bar in my town that I grew up with. Um, just sold. I don't know if it's sold to anybody in particular, if it's going to change hands. It's been in business, I think, from the 70s with roots that go back to the 1800s. I saw it on Facebook. But as far as the roots that I know about from just my last couple of years, uh, you know, living on that side of town, you know, brings me to memory a couple of buddies that I know that have passed away. One guy died right there. Graduated high school with him. But there's been a handful, maybe even a pretty decent amount of kids that passed away from my town, from my high school. Year 2000, I graduated, so that's over 20 years ago, right? 23 years, 2023. Time goes by fast, but it's kind of like this thing where like people pass away, and you say, all right, that's just one down, two down, and then, but a lot of these guys, like, they stay with me, and I think about them often, maybe often, more often than normal, but I always feel like, it could have been me, it could have been, you know, uh, somebody that's even closer to me than some of these guys were. Some of them were just acquaintances, some people I knew from just around town, you know. This one guy, I remember we were in class together, and he was like a cool guy, and but he was always like kind enough to like look out for me, when I wasn't able to take care of myself. He never really, see, just to go back, we were in like basic skills classes. We were like in a group of kids that were kind of like lower on the proficiency level, whether we had disabilities or maybe some of us had discipline issues. We all got kind of conglomerated into the same little group. So it was the good, the bad, and the funny. We always had a blast in these classes, but the marks weren't meant, you know, we weren't going to amount to much. I think we were just put them over here. And but this kid, one of them in particular, he was always looking out for me and always like lift you up, And I think that kindness kind of followed suit as I grew up and got older and got stronger mentally in my mind and more. I think it's what it was, a little late maturity level for me. So as I was maturing, I realized, I'm appreciating that, And I made it a point to think about other people in that way a little bit differently, like somebody that might be having an issue mentally, struggling with family issues or someone passing or maybe a health issue. Maybe they're physically, mentally challenged. You care more, I think, because I was in a position where I felt like, I appreciated that, and I want to spread it. Now, mind you, I've had my fair share of being made fun of and making fun of other people too, which I'm not too proud of. And a lot of times I realized as I grew up out of that, was we do it, so it's not on you. Like you're making fun of somebody else maybe, so the jokes don't get pointed to you. And it made us tougher, I think. Some people back then maybe didn't handle it too well, I'm sure. I sure as heck got something out of it and said to myself, I'm not going to be this way, and I'm going to think more about how I treat others. And that's pretty much try to have the buck stop with me, It's not going to go beyond. If I feel like even if somebody's making fun of me, I'm not going to go back after them. And that's the hardest part for me, to like be one of the guys sometimes joke around, bust chops back. I don't want to say anything that's too hurtful. Some of that stuff would bother me. even in jokes, hey, jokes, yeah, whatever. Things about your physical face, characteristics, how you look, or your attitude, or your intellect, which is a big one. I'll get more insulted if someone says something about what I'm thinking rather than the way I look, because physicality is kind of like whatever, doesn't matter. As long as I'm happy with myself, I'm okay with that. But with the intellect, I think people want to try to be at that level, be deep, be considered intelligent. But to getting back to some of these people that passed away, I always feel like there's well, how did he pass away? Or how did she die? What was the story? Like it maybe has some kind of mixed feeling of how they passed away, like almost like, well, they were asking for it, like they were reckless, or this is live by the sword, die by the, kind of like live fast, die young. To me, I never cared about that. I just thought about the person passing away, and just like that. I mean, one beer, extra maybe, or one time you try something. Nowadays, this stuff that they got on the street, it's dangerous, right? You could die. It's not so innocent. So it's kind of scary, but it also kind of like projects this image like, it wasn't really maybe 100% this person or that person's fault. And it could have been anybody. The judgment is the hard thing. People trying to judge, make themselves feel better. Well, I'm not as bad as that person is. That's what happened to them. Someone's gone, the person passes away. And I know it's around the whole country. Is all you can hear about everywhere you go is this epidemic, this and that. And, you try to turn a blind eye to it. You try to not look in that direction and just walk tall and walk away and just say, at least that's not me. But in some ways, it could have been any one of us, or your family. Don't take things for granted, I guess. We're never too far along in life to be put right back down to the gutter. The death of a loved one, family could really shock people. I actually physically helped one of my best friends bury his father. And it was an intense scenario to be in, but we physically shoveled. And I think about him almost all the time. And to be completely honest, the relationship ended because of something I did. I didn't follow through with a commitment that I made because I was scared and stressed. And I wasn't strong enough to hold up my word. And I'm being honest with you guys because that's what I said I was going to do. And it makes me feel better to get that off my chest. That, if you got 5, 10, 15 subscribers, I kind of feel like I owe it to people to be honest. So, it's not the most horrible thing in history. It's not like a Jerry Springer movie, but it is something that was my fault, and I own up to it. Doesn't really need to go into detail, only because it's his privacy. I would share anything, but for this, I just want to leave it at that. But that's one of those things. The mistakes we make, little thing. And then the people that are left behind, who are we to judge, I just hope some way that this video helps somebody to maybe think a little bit about, not taking things for granted. Forgive yourself if you're mad at yourself. And don't look down on people, even though we all have ways of doing that one way or another. It might come out in different ways these days, like, well, I only feed my kid this kind of food, or we only wear this type of materials or this products, or, we judge people based on medical choices that they make. It was hard, COVID thing. And obviously the basic stuff that we come along with, treat people like human beings, man. And I guess show some remorse and compassion despite what you already know about somebody, and they could be a terrible person and they pass away. There's still a life gone, man, and there's still potential there that's gone. I think there's goodness in everybody. And once that light is out, the party's over, So, anyway, it's a very deep, intense thought, but, it's a truthful thought. And I think that's what this has been for me, is being honest with myself. And I really, I'm in love with it. I feel like I could really let people know me and let my son know me. Maybe in the future, one day, he could say that was my dad, if I'm not around. Anything could happen. And this is kind of like one of those moments where I want him to understand too. Show love to everyone if you can. If you could muster it, you could ignore negativity and just look for the light and the potential. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. It means a lot to be able to get this stuff out. So I recommend it to anybody that's trying to deal with things. It's actually uplifting. Thanks, guys.